Welcome to Bookish Mind, Season 05, Episode 09. In Daniel Goleman's groundbreaking book, Focus, we delve into a world where silence speaks volumes. What if you possessed an uncanny ability to perceive the deepest, most subtle emotional signals that most people miss entirely? You've stumbled upon the deep dive where we take a stack of sources, in this case, key insights from Daniel Goleman's Focus, and unearth the most important nuggets of knowledge for you. Today, we're plunging into the fascinating world of nonverbal communication, specifically how incredibly subtle cues can reveal profound truths, often without us, well, even realizing it.
Indeed. And we'll explore what it really means to be a social sensitive, someone acutely attuned to the tiniest emotional signals, and how these meta messages, these underlying unspoken meanings in nonverbal channels shape our interactions and perceptions, whether we're aware of them or not. It's about the information we receive and send far beyond just the words we speak.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this, let's dive into a specific case study from the book. There's this compelling story of a woman named Katrina. How does her unique experience sort of shed light on this idea?
Right, Katrina. Well, she developed this almost supernatural emotional radar from a really young age. Apparently, her father had an explosive temper, and as a child, she became um, hypervigilant,
Yeah.
constantly on edge. She learned to sense these tiny, minute cues, a slight rise in his voice, maybe the lowering of his eyebrows into a glower that signaled an outburst was coming. This hyper-awareness just became deeply ingrained, a survival mechanism, really.
Wow. Okay, so building on that, how did this hyper-awareness evolve? How did it impact her life later on as an adult outside that family context?
Well, as she grew older, her emotional radar became incredibly sensitive, almost uncomfortably so sometimes. Like in graduate school, for instance, she realized that a fellow student had secretly slept with a professor
Just from observation.
just by observing their body language.
Yeah.
She noticed how their bodies synchronized in this really subtle dance, as she put it. Katrina described it, saying something like, they would shift together, move in unison. When she wiggled, he wiggled. She felt they were intimately attuned at the body level like lovers.
Wow.
And that insight just hit her immediately.
Mm-hmm.
What's really fascinating here is that even months later, when the student finally confided in Katrina about the affair, Katrina noted that the affair had actually stopped by then.
My.
But their bodies were still together, she said, still reflecting that deep, almost primal connection.
That's just astonishing. A remarkable level of perception. So it truly is like a constant stream of hidden information she's processing.
Exactly. Katrina explicitly stated that whenever she's with someone, she's hyper-aware of dozens of streams of information people don't usually sense. Things like the lift of an eyebrow, the movement of a hand, things most of us just filter out.
Mm.
But, this overwhelming input often felt disruptive to her. It was a burden, really. Made her feel like she knew way too much and it kills me. I'm overly aware.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, with such heightened sensitivity, how did this play out in less positive ways? Maybe even painful situations for her?
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't always a gift.
Yeah.
She recounted this particularly vivid experience. She was late to a meeting, right? Kept everyone waiting. And despite everyone being verbally friendly, saying, oh, it's fine, their bodies told a completely different story.
What did she see?
She could clearly see by their postures, how they held themselves, their avoidance of eye contact, that everyone there was actually pretty angry. Katrina felt a rush of sadness and a lump in my throat. And, well, unsurprisingly, the meeting didn't go well. She admitted, I'm always seeing things I'm not supposed to, and it's a problem. Often poke into private stuff without meaning to, because she couldn't always keep these insights bottled up.
Right, that makes sense. So, what's the core takeaway from Katrina's journey here? It sounds like this emotional radar isn't just a superpower, it's complex, a challenge.
You've hit on a key point. Exactly. The central insight, I think, is that while heightened sensitivity offers this profound understanding, it really is a double-edged sword. It's a unique strength, yes, but it also demands significant self-management to avoid, overwhelm and even misinterpretation. Katrina eventually realized she had to work on this. She started working with an executive coach because her team was giving feedback about her being intrusive.
Ah, so it wasn't just her internal experience.
No, that's the thing. Her coach identified that she had a problem leaking emotional cues, meaning her own reactions, her own body language in response to what she picked up, unintentionally made people think she was angry or upset.
I see.
So people like Katrina are what Goleman calls social sensitives. They have this uncanny knack for reading cues so subtle that other people miss them. Things like a slight dilation of your iris, lift of your eyebrow, or shift of your body. Tiny things. The challenge, as Katrina discovered, isn't just receiving all this data, but managing her own reaction to it. and then deciding what, if anything, to do with that information.
It's clear that kind of awareness can be totally overwhelming. But
Oh,
can these same sensitivities be harnessed for good? Or maybe even for a distinct advantage?
absolutely. That's where the real potential lies. While it can be a burden, these same talents, when managed well, can make us really socially astute. It allows us to sense, when not to bring up a touchy subject, or when someone just needs space, or maybe when comfort is welcome, all without a word being spoken. A trained eye for the subtle cue offers huge advantages in many areas.
Can you give us some examples? Like, where does this acute awareness provide a real-world edge?
Okay, well, think about top athletes. Sports like squash or tennis, incredibly fast-paced. The best players can predict where an opponent's serve will land just by noticing these tiny shifts in posture, maybe a slight muscle tightening, the angle of the shoulders they prepare to hit.
It's a split-second read.
Exactly. A fraction of a second read that gives them a critical advantage. Or think about baseball greats like Hank Aaron. He'd watch films of pitchers over and over, not just to understand their general technique, but to spot those little tells, those subtle cues that revealed what pitch was coming next, gave him that edge at the plate.
That's fascinating. And what's really interesting is how science is now digging into this, trying to break it down. Tell us about Justine Cassell's work in this field. She sounds like a key figure here.
Oh, absolutely. Justine Cassell, she's director of the Human-Computer Interaction Institute at Carnegie Mellon. She applies a similar kind of well-trained empathy, but with this rigorous, almost microscopic precision. Apparently, she grew up playing a family game of observing people, which kind of set the stage for her later work.
A foreshadowing.
Right. So as a graduate student, she spent hundreds and hundreds of hours studying just hand movements, from videos of people describing cartoons. She'd meticulously analyze video frame by frame, documenting every tiny shift. Hand shape, orientation, placement, trajectory, incredibly detailed. And then the amazing part, she tried to work backwards from her notes to see if she could precisely reproduce the exact movement, really uncovering patterns invisible to the casual observer.
Wow, that's intense. So her meticulous approach wasn't just limited to hands, or what other nonverbal cues did she look into?
Correct. More recently, she's done similar deep dives with tiny movements of facial muscles, with eye gaze, eyebrow raises, head nods, all those micro expressions. She scores all these movements second by second, checking her accuracy. Hundreds of hours of this painstaking work, and she continues it with her students at Carnegie Mellon even now.
Okay, so after all this incredibly detailed analysis, what hidden messages did she actually uncover? What did she find out about how we communicate beyond just words?
Well, one really key finding Cassell emphasizes is that gestures always occur just before the most emphasized part of what you're saying.
Before, not during or after.
Just before. And this timing, she explains, is absolutely critical for conveying sincerity, authenticity. She suggests one reason some politicians, for example, might come across as insincere is that maybe they've been coached on what gestures to make.
Like, use this hand motion here.
Exactly. But they haven't learned the correct timing. So when they produce those gestures after the key word, it just gives off this sense of something being fake or inauthentic, even if you, the observer, can't quite put your finger on why.
That is a profound observation. So it's not just what you gesture, but when that really defines authenticity. Could you walk us through an example? How does that subtle timing shift actually change the meaning?
Sure, absolutely. Let's imagine you say, she's a great candidate for the job. Right. Now, if you raise your eyebrows, nod your head, and really emphasize that word great, all at the same time, synced up,
Okay.
you send a very clear, positive emotional message. It feels genuine. You really think she's excellent. But let's say you say the exact same sentence. She's a great candidate for the job. But this time, your head nod and your eyebrow raise come in that little beat of silence after you say great.
Ah, I
It
sense.
completely shifts the emotional meaning. It
Yeah.
signals sarcasm. You're subtly communicating, maybe unconsciously, that you think she's not all that great without changing a single spoken word, just the timing.
So these meta messages, these deeper layers of meaning, they're happening unconsciously. We're picking up on them without even, like, actively trying.
Precisely. These readings of meta messages through nonverbal channels happen to us instantly, unconsciously, automatically. As Cassell puts it, we cannot not make meaning of what someone tells us, whether it's conveyed through words or gestures or both together. Our bottom-up circuitry, that's our brain's automatic sort of non-conscious processing system, is constantly reading everything we attend to in another person. Even if our conscious, deliberate top-down awareness misses most of it, our deeper brain is still processing and interpreting, like a supercomputer running silently in the background.
Is there research supporting that?
Yes, there was even this fascinating study where listeners actually remembered hearing information they only saw in a gesture. For example, if someone heard the words, "he comes out the bottom of the pipe," but simultaneously saw the speaker make a gesture like a fist bouncing up and down.
Okay.
They later remembered having heard and then goes downstairs. The visual cue literally overwrote the auditory memory. It shows how powerful that nonverbal channel is.
Wow, okay, so these hidden messages aren't just minor flavor text. What kind of powerful impact do they really have on our relationships, our daily interactions? What are the stakes?
Oh, they're huge. Marital researchers, for instance, have known for a long time that if one partner repeatedly shows fleeting facial expressions of, say, disgust or contempt during conflicts, even if they're tiny, quick flashes.
Micro-expression.
Exactly. The odds of that couple staying together are greatly diminished. These subtle cues, often missed consciously, really erode the foundation of the relationship.
Yeah.
But conversely, think about psychotherapy. If the therapist and the client start moving in sync with one another, it's called mirroring or achieving rapport, there are likely to be much better therapeutic outcomes.
So that physical synchrony reflects emotional connection.
It seems to. It shows how profoundly these nonverbal exchanges influence trust, connection, and the success of the interaction.
It's genuinely thought-provoking, isn't it? Realizing how much we might be missing in just everyday conversations. This research really unpacks the silent dialogues happening all around us. Now, shifting gears just a bit. How has someone like Cassell taken this incredibly deep, detailed understanding of nonverbal communication and applied it, like in practical, maybe even technological ways?
Right. Well, one really powerful application back when she was a professor at MIT's Media Lab was developing a system called BEAT. Basically, this system guides professional animators in the art of nonverbal behavior.
How does it work?
Animators can type in a piece of dialogue, and BEAT automatically generates an animating character, like a cartoon person with the appropriate gestures, head movements, eye movements, posture, all timed correctly based on her research.
So it helps make animation more lifelike.
Exactly. More authentically human in its nuances. They can then refine it artistically, of course, but it gives them that baseline of realistic nonverbal expression. And these days, Cassell is also building similar animated cartoons where, as she puts it, images of children act as virtual peers to elementary school students. These virtual peers use social skills, build rapport nonverbally, and then use that rapport to actually help facilitate learning.
Using nonverbal cues to connect and teach, even through an avatar.
Precisely. It's really about leveraging these subtle, powerful cues to enhance connection and learning, both in the virtual world and hopefully translating that back into the real one.
Thank you. This has been fascinating, helping us navigate these incredibly subtle layers of communication. It's so clear that while our words tell one story, our bodies are often telling another, deeper one, full of these meta messages that we're constantly sending and receiving, whether we realize it or not.
It really just underscores that communication is so much richer, so much more complex than just the spoken language we focus on. The silence, the movements, they truly do speak volumes. They convey emotions, intentions, and yeah, they even shape how we interpret the words themselves.
So what does this all mean for you, listening in? Maybe the next time you're in a conversation, try to consciously notice not just the words being spoken, but that subtle dance of gestures, the little shifts in posture, the fleeting expressions that cross someone's face. Pay attention to the timing of those movements, too. What hidden meta messages might you be missing? Or maybe what messages are you sending yourself without realizing it? We really encourage you to observe that rich, silent tapestry of nonverbal communication in your own daily life.